All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Texas Storm Chasers Baldy and Chief David Reimer. It is 5:14 p.m. on the 26th of February, 2023. We do have multiple severe thunderstorms now moving across the eastern half of the Texas Panhandle. These are moving east-northeast at a brisk 75 miles per hour, and they may get even faster than that over the next couple of hours. A couple notes here before we dive into our continuous severe weather coverage. We're going to be focusing on the most intense storms this evening, and we may continue live coverage as these move into Oklahoma. We are going to be keeping an eye on the gradient winds, the winds that are occurring behind the dry line. We've got a wall of dust moving into Amarillo. We've got major problems in the wind department in Dalhart, Vega, Hereford. We've got winds over 75 miles an hour. We've had damage. Visibility below 1/4 mile, a legitimate 1920 era's dust storm. But again, we do have one tornado warning, and it's about to be two. So let's go ahead and dive into it. This is tornado warning number one. This is going to be for a possible tornado crossing Highway 70. This is going to be for Hutchinson and... northwestern Lipscomb, northern Roberts, and Oldtree counties until 5:45 p.m. This will be for the possibility of a tornado and golf ball size hail. This circulation's in a rural area crossing about 20 miles south of Perryton. This could eventually be an issue for Booker, Highway 15, east of Follett. And again, this storm is moving northeast at 65 miles an hour, so it's going to be on Highway 15 near Booker to Follett within the next 30 minutes by 5:45. We have a new tornado warning. This is for a possible tornado coming up to the community of Groom, and this is going to be an issue for Interstate 40. One moment, please. Let me get rid of some of these. Okay, so this is going to be a tornado warning until 6 p.m. for northeastern Armstrong, Wheeler County, southeastern Carson, Gray, and northwestern Donley counties in the Texas Panhandle, and this will be until 6 p.m. This tornado warning does include Groom. It includes McLean. It includes Interstate 40 from Groom to McLean. This includes LaFours, Mobetti, Wheeler. And again, this is a large, relatively long-duration polygon because this storm's moving very, very, very quickly to the east-northeast. Some estimates have this moving almost 80 miles an hour. So this possible tornado is going to be crossing over Interstate 40 a bit east of Groom in the next 5 minutes. So this should be crossing east of Groom, a bit east of the Leaning Water Tower of Doom. And these storms are moving into a very favorable environment for tornadoes, some of which could be long-track, long-lived, and significant, the potential for large hail, and eventually these storms also could be capable of producing straight-line winds over 100 miles per hour, becoming a derecho as they move into Oklahoma this evening. So again, I do expect we're going to be here for a while now. So we have a line of severe storms broken. Line of severe storms all the way from near Garden City, Kansas, down to Meade, Kansas, Beaver, Oklahoma, and the Panhandle, Perryton, Texas, down Highway 83, just southwest of Canadian. Then a little bit of a break, heavy rain, heavy winds over 60 miles an hour in Pampa. Potential for a tornado crossing Interstate 40 near Groom in the next 5 minutes as this storm moves east-northeast at about 50 to 70 miles per hour. And we have additional thunderstorms rapidly developing further south, just east of the dry line from near Claude, west and southwest of Clarendon, all the way down to Silverton and Tulia. These storms are likely going to become supercellular over the next 1 hour and could produce all modes of severe weather, including the possibility of tornadoes. Again, we are in a somewhat uncharted environment here in terms of the wind shear. I don't like buying into hyperbole, but really the amount of wind shear that we're going to see, especially in parts of Oklahoma tonight, in a severe weather environment hasn't really been seen before. So again, we are going to be keeping an extremely close eye on all these storms this evening. And we have chasers out and about. Let's, in fact, switch on over. We'll take a look. We've got, well, here, let me list them off the top of my head. Adam Lucio, Alex Bartholomew, Ben McCone, Chelsea Stewart, Burnett. You know, this name change for her happened like 10 years ago, and I still get it confused in my head. But Chelsea Burnett. We've got Jenny Brown, Stephen Jones, Trey Greenwood. And if I forgot someone, I'm sorry. They can yell at me later. But we've got a lot of folks out and about chasing today. As you can see, they're currently east-southeast of the storms. What they're doing is they're positioning themselves well ahead of these storms that are developing across west central Texas and plan to intercept them on 83 or 287. And they have to do that today because these storms are going to be moving at 70 to 80 miles an hour. So it's not a chase per se. It's a one-and-done event where you pretty much pick a spot, watch the storm go by, and either plan on intercepting the next one or your day's done. So, as they are heading out and chasing, we are going to keep an eye on the sky here. And again, possibility of a tornado passing just southeast of Groom on Interstate 40 over the next few minutes. This storm is moving east-northeast quickly. Tornado warning polygon technically includes the city of McLean, LaFours up 273, beautiful road, Mobetti on Highway 152, and includes Wheeler, north of Shamrock. This tornado warning does not include the city of Shamrock at this time, and this storm's probably going to stay north of Shamrock. It could be near McLean if it turns a little right, but these may have a more north-northeastward element of motion here compared to the more typical east movement we may be dealing with at times with storms in the Panhandle. So again, this storm, in addition to capable of producing a tornado, could be producing winds over 70 miles per hour. There we go. And again, you can see that hook echo right there, southeast of Groom, and that's where we may have a tornado spin up at any time. We have another tornado warning. This is going to be for a storm about 20 miles southeast of Perryton, Texas. This is going to be crossing over Highway 83 in the next several minutes. Let me put some streets on here. We'll try and get a little more specific. And again, this is a very rural area, so there we go. Okay, there's County Road, or excuse me, Highway 83. You've got County Road Uniform. And then eventually, this is going to be coming up to State Highway 23, north of Highway 83, south of Booker. And eventually, this storm will be crossing over Highway 15 between Booker and Follette before moving into the southeastern Oklahoma Panhandle, perhaps a threat to Laverne, Buffalo, Fort Supply, Oklahoma. And again, this storm's capable of producing a tornado at any time as it moves northeast. These are all moving northeast at roughly 60, 70 miles per hour. Second tornado warned storm, now just southeast of Groom on Interstate 40, moving northeast at about 50 plus miles an hour. These kind of fluctuating, but eventually storm speeds are going to make it up to 75 miles per hour. And this storm could be a threat to areas near and southeast of LaFours down 273, McLean north, and eventually this is going to be an issue for Highway 152 from Mobetti to Wheeler, east of Wheeler, almost to the Oklahoma state line. And again, we're watching additional thunderstorms develop farther south, east of the dry line, near Tulia, east on 86 to Silverton, to Turkey. And these are all going to likely become supercellular over the next 30 to 60 minutes as they move northeast towards Clarendon, Memphis, Childress, Wellington, Shamrock, and then eventually into far western Oklahoma. So again, and then behind these thunderstorms, if I turn on the storm reports, we've got winds over 60 miles an hour just behind this dry line, causing widespread blowing dust. We've had hurricane-force winds from just the wind alone in Amarillo. We've had winds up to 66 in Lubbock. We've had winds of 65 in Sundown. We've had winds over 60 in Plains. Clovis has had winds over 75 miles an hour. We've got reports of damage in Dalhart to grain bins. Sounds like carports are flying. So again, we're going to have very strong winds behind this dry line tonight in the Texas Panhandle, West Texas, the Permian Basin, far West Texas. And if I can, real quick, I'll turn on the satellite product that may allow us to see some dust. And again, now I know this is messy and not what you're typically used to seeing, but it'd be a lot easier to see if, there weren't storms in the way. But this whole section here, this pink area, that is dust. That's a dust storm. It's happening up here too, but you can't see it because of upper level clouds. But that pink, that is a wall of dust. Widespread dust with visibility below 1 mile. This whole thing right here. And that is moving like this. And it's going to continue to do so this evening. So again, we've got winds 60 to 80 miles per hour along and behind the dry line. Panhandle, West Texas, the Permian Basin, and the far West Texas. We're starting to calm down in the borderland around El Paso. You can see we are clearing out. The winds are starting to come down, comparatively speaking, but we're going to be in for a very windy night across the entire state of Texas. Now, we'll go back to our convective element for this as our storm chasers move to intercept these thunderstorms. And real quick, we're going to take a look here in southwest Kansas. I want to take a look at what's going on up here with these storms. Apparently, yeah, okay, so we do have a tornado in progress northeast of Garden City in Kansas, which is a little surprising with the environment, but does just help us understand what's going on up north where there's less moisture available. So if there's tornadoes up there, we are certainly capable of having tornadoes down here too. Okay, we've got a thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado now about 3 miles east of Groom on Interstate 40, about to pass over the rural areas south of LaForce and west of McLean. This is going to be an issue for Highway 273 coming up within the next 10 minutes near LaForce, down 273, about 5:38 to 5:40 p.m. as this storm's moving northeast at almost 75 miles per hour. This is going to be crossing over Highway 152 in about 20 minutes or so near Mobetti, east of Pampa. This is going to stay east of Pampa. This is not a threat to the city of Pampa. And then eventually, this is going to cross over Highway 33 southeast of Canadian at about 6:05 to 6:10 p.m. this evening. Now, we've got multiple chasers. In fact, I think nearly every chaser we have is out today. As you can see, we've got a couple of their live streams below. This thunderstorm currently passing over Highway 83 about 15 to 20 miles southeast of Perryton, is moving northeast in a hurry. It's going to be passing over... That's not what I wanted. Highway 15 from Booker to Folliot in about 20 minutes or less. And we're watching these thunderstorms beginning to develop from Tulia to Silverton. These are we're going to have to watch carefully. You can see they have supercellular characteristics already. For example, this thunderstorm on Highway 207 south of Claude. You can see that hook echo right there just west of 207. Rotation starting to increase on the which way the wind's blowing mode. So that may be our next candidate for a tornado warning. And this is a tornado warning for multiple counties in the Panhandle. Northeastern Armstrong, Wheeler, Southeastern Carson, Gray, Northwestern Donley counties until 6 o'clock. And again, these are going to be relatively large warnings tonight because these storms are moving at 70 to 80 miles an hour to the northeast. So, goes without saying, they don't have to stop at stop signs, traffic lights, etc. And they are going at full interstate speed. And then behind these storms, we've got winds 60 to 80 miles an hour with a wall of dust. That'll knock visibility below 1/2 mile. We'll take a look at the severe weather outlook for tonight. This is the latest outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. Let me get rid of that timestamp. These are going to be, again, evolving into a line of severe storms that'll move east into Oklahoma, where we have a level 4 out of 5 risk. A derecho tonight. And a derecho is a long-lived line of intense thunderstorms producing hurricane-force winds, generally over a path of several hundred miles. In the upper Midwest, it's not uncommon to see derechos go from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa to the Atlantic seaboard near Washington, D.C. to Jersey over a period of about 18 hours. This one will not be that long-lived, but we are going to have problems. In terms of the tornado outlook, this is the tornado potential this evening. And again, at this point, obviously, with the event underway, we're just going to be watching trends carefully. But this is the risk from the Storm Prediction Center. Highest threat for tornadoes pretty much now through about 9 p.m. in the eastern Texas Panhandle. Northwest Texas, we're going to have to keep an eye on it. This may end up being a southwest Oklahoma issue versus northwest Texas, but it is going to be a close call. All right, back to the super duper awesome blossom. Hey, I can make up cool idioms too. Doppler radar. Looks like we just had a southwest wind gust in Amarillo of 75 miles per hour. So again, those winds not in association with a thunderstorm, those are with the post-dry line environment. Those are what we call gradient winds. Hail core now passing north of Interstate 40 by probably 6 to 7 miles. East of Groom, southwest of LaForce, this thunderstorm could have golf ball size hail. Moving northeast at 75 miles per hour. This will be near LaForce on 273, about 5:40 p.m. On Highway 152 by about 5:50 p.m. near Mobetti. Highway 83 between Canadian and Wheeler in about 30 minutes, assuming this keeps moving at 75 miles per hour. And we'll keep an eye out to see if these turn right a little bit. Given the extremely strong kinematics or the amount of wind shear in place today, these storms are going to have a hard time becoming right turners or left turners, etc. The wind's probably just going to push them right along where the wind wants them to go. But again, a tornado warning continues through 6 p.m. for this thunderstorm southwest of LaForce. It's going to likely stay northwest of McLean, but these storms developing southwest of Groom again, these are showing signs of strong rotation, and these could become tornadic at any time. We've got a report of a couple of working wildfires around Fort Davis. We have a tornado confirmed in progress with this thunderstorm due west of Dodge City, Kansas, southeast of Ingalls, near Cimarron, Kansas. That is a very angry tornado-looking signature. Very clear hook echo there. Tornado debris signature on radar. So as those storms are pulsing up north, these are going to do the same down south. So again, I expect we're going to be here for a bit. Those of you from Childress, Wellington, Shamrock, Wheeler, Canadian, up to Beaver, Oklahoma, Laverne, Oklahoma, Arnett, Woodward, Cheyenne, Sealing, Weatherford, Oklahoma, Elk City, Eric, Sayre, Mangum, Altus, Hollis, El Dorado, Oklahoma, and then back in the eastern Texas Panhandle under the gun for a major severe weather event over the next 2 hours as we deal with significant severe storms capable of producing tornadoes, hail, hurricane-force straight-line winds. And short-term, extremely high-resolution data suggest an increasing tornado threat in this area. So at this point, we're just looking for radar signatures that would suggest an increasing threat for a tornado. This storm south of LaFours moving northeast at 75 miles an hour, so definitely has the potential for that. These storms up near Booker, unfortunately, not in a great radar area in terms of the radar coverage, but definitely capable of producing very strong winds up to 80 miles an hour and the potential for a tornado. Same thing goes with this thunderstorm now south and east of LaFours. We'll switch back to the how hard it's raining mode. Again, very heavy rain, the potential for golf ball size hail. And this possible circulation about 10 miles south of LaFours, moving northeast at about 60 to 75 miles an hour, is going to be a direct issue for Mobetti on 152, east of Wheeler on 152. And then eventually, this is going to pass into western Oklahoma, passing west of Cheyenne, Oklahoma. With that dangerous thunderstorm. Heading back out here, this is on Interstate 40 near Adrian. This is a wildfire. This is a fire being driven by 75 to 80 mile per hour winds. If I switch on the hotspot data, you might be able to see it. You might not. I can't see it on the satellite, but there's a fire there showing up. You could see the smoke plume. So again, we've got fires, we've got dust storms, we've got severe storms, we've got gradient winds behind the dry line of 75 miles an hour. These storms ahead of the dry line capable of producing same winds, the potential for tornadoes and hail. And then we just got a wall of dust across West Texas, the Permian Basin, the borderland. So it looks like the current plan for now is the Weather Service is going to let this tornado warning south of Perryton to Booker expire, with the threat being damaging straight line winds of 65 to 80 miles an hour. Still quite problematic in itself. The short-term concern for a tornado is with this well-defined supercell capable of producing golf ball to baseball size hail now about 9 miles south of LaFours, moving northeast at 70 miles per hour. This is probably going to be taking a track towards Mobetti and Wheeler, in which case it's going to be there in the next 20 minutes. If the storm's a bit slower, it may end up being a little bit later, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. And again, we thank all those who have been joining us this afternoon. We're going to be here for a while yet, and we are probably going to be here for western and southwestern Oklahoma as well once these storms move into those regions, just because this has the potential to be a problematic event. For sure there. My apologies, people, with the warning sounds. That's muted now. You won't hear that again. Let's take a regionalized view. I'm going to switch products to that. It's not what I really wanted. There we go. I just want to take a look at the last hour. So these storms developing east of Tulia, northeast of Plainview, north of Floydada. have the potential to become problematic in the supercell department very quickly. You can see we're already starting to get hail indications, and we are in an environment supportive of tornadoes. The potential for strong tornadoes at that, in addition to hurricane force straight line winds and golf ball to baseball size hail. So as these thunderstorms likely mature over the next 1 hour, I would expect severe thunderstorm and or tornado warnings to be issued. Those of you in Clarendon, Memphis, Childress, Shamrock, Hollis, Oklahoma, even up to Elk City, Oklahoma down the road, these storms developing now from Tulia Floydata are likely to become quite intense as they move northeast quickly, and they will likely become tornadic, at least the most intense storms. All right, back to the current radar. You can see a good hook echo with this thunderstorm now southeast of LaFours over a mainly rural area. This is going to be about 10 miles, at least the circulation's about 10 miles southeast of LaFours. The hail core extends from about a mile or two southeast of LaFours all the way down to almost Interstate 40 on McLean. And you'll see we have additional storms developing on the flanking line of this first supercell back southwest towards Groom. We need to watch all these storms for signs of tornadogenesis, given the extremely strong low-level wind shear. So as these all move northeast very, very quickly, the potential for tornadoes will continue. In fact, what we're looking right now is storm relative velocity. This takes into account the motion of the thunderstorm and enters that data into the velocity mode and gives us a more representative picture of what is going on. So with the storm motion included, storm moving at 70 miles an hour, we've got winds moving towards the radar in Amarillo in green and blue, winds moving away in red. What concerns me is this area of very strong inflow on the north side of the circulation. That does indicate to me the potential this is going to become a tornado-producing storm at some point if it hasn't already. Now, here is what we call base velocity mode. This doesn't take into account the storm motion, but sometimes can give you a better idea of the actual wind speed, wind direction being produced by the storm. So here you go. This is your rear flank downdraft. This is your inflow. Looking back at the velocity, this is just rear flank downdraft or gradient winds up to potentially 70 miles an hour, if not higher. So again, the potential for a tornado approaching Highway 273 now. This is moving very, very quickly. Back to the how hard it's raining mode. You can see pretty well-defined circulation. You've got your well-defined supercell structure here. That's your rear flank downdraft, inflow. It's going to be your circulation right there. If we had a tornado, it'd be right there. To the which way the wind's blowing mode, and there you go. So again, this thunderstorm has a pretty significant potential of producing a tornado over the next 30 minutes as it moves northeast towards Mobetti and Wheeler on Highway 152. This will be passing northwest of Shamrock. We have a thunderstorm, not technically severe yet, but it is going to be shortly, about to pass over Highway 287 near Clarendon, moving northeast at about 75 miles per hour. This thunderstorm, should it continue, may be a direct threat to either McLean or Shamrock on Interstate 40. This storm, capable of producing hail, if not now, it will be shortly, may eventually become tornadic down the road. Same thing goes for these thunderstorms developing from east of Tulia to Silverton. Some of these storms are likely to become discrete or semi-discrete supercells capable of producing all modes of severe weather as they move northeast at 60 to 75 miles per hour. These thunderstorms, any storm out in the Panhandle tonight and in northwest Texas tonight, just assume is going to be capable of producing 60 to 80 mile an hour winds. The potential for nickel to ping pong ball size hail, but the more intense supercells, at least for the next hour or two, could produce baseball size hail. And some of these storms are going to be producing tornadoes, and those will continue into Oklahoma. This had a wind gust of about 67 miles an hour in Hereford, southwest of Canyon on Highway 60. That's from gradient winds. We had a wind gust of 74 miles an hour within the last hour in Amarillo. Got a report of a wall cloud now about, 5 to 6 miles north of Allen Reed. So again, we're going to be watching all these carefully. We know multiple tornadoes currently in progress west of Dodge City. Make sure my data feed's updating. Toggle those off and toggle them back on. There we go. Okay. So again, this storm now coming up on Highway 273, northwest of about halfway between LaFours and McLean on 273. It's not going to impact either LaFours or McLean, but this storm is probably getting ready to produce a tornado. This is going to be a direct threat to Mobetti and Wheeler. In the eastern Texas Panhandle, this is now north of Interstate 40, west of the Oklahoma state line, well east of Amarillo, well south of Canadian, staying north of Shamrock. Shamrock, McLean, Wellington, these storms developing to your west from Howard Work and Clarendon back southwest to Silverton have a high potential of becoming intense supercells over the next hour. They are going to have problems. So y'all pay attention, because those storms are probably going to become, at least a couple of them, are tornadic, given the extremely strong kinematics, low-level wind shear, increasing low-level moisture coming in from the southeast and up the Caprock, and instability. And as long as these storms stay discreet, we are going to have problems in the tornado department. And once they grow up, scale into a squall line, we're still going to have problems in the tornado department, but the potential for hurricane force winds of 80 to 110 miles an hour will increase. That's probably going to be an issue for west central Oklahoma in the coming hours. And again, I'll put this on a loop real quick. This is just going to be a half-hour loop. See how quickly this is moving? That boundary you see, that was from Amarillo to Tulia, that flies east, that is the dry line. This is all flying east extremely quickly, with an intensifying surface cyclone over west central Kansas, an upper-level jet kicking in. We've got winds at about 18,000 feet above the ground right now, screaming at 150 miles an hour. Later tonight, in western Oklahoma, we're going to have winds about 1,000 feet above the surface at about 90 to 100 miles an hour, which it will not take much to mix those winds down to the surface. Same thing technically goes for northwest Texas if we have storms. And if we have storms, they're going to be producing significant severe weather. So as we head back, check out streams. Looks like one of our teams is currently in no data land, hence the black nothingness. Meanwhile, Stephen Jones, Ben McCone, they are... Actually, I could tell you exactly where they are because I've got them on Life 360. Obviously, where they are, they're dealing with some rain, some reduced visibility due to dust. They are actually right now coming into Wheeler. So they're heading north on 83 into Wheeler now. They're going to intercept this thunderstorm north of McLean as it makes its way towards Mobetti and Wheeler, which I think is an extremely good move. This thing is going to produce a tornado pretty soon, I think. Visual structure from some other chasers indicate a very high potential of a tornado in the next 20 minutes. You'll note we have a tornado warning through 6:30 p.m. now. This is going to be for Wheeler County. southeastern Gray, and southeastern Hemphill. This is for a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado 7 miles west of Kellerville, 21 miles south of Miami, moving northeast at 50 miles per hour. This is a direct threat to Mobetti and Wheeler. So if either of you or anyone watching, you have friends in Mobetti and Wheeler, we would really appreciate it if you'd give them a call, shoot them a message, be like, hey, storm coming up from your southwest at 75 miles an hour is probably going to have a tornado with it soon. Tune into the Texas Storm Chasers. Watch their coverage. They'll keep you up to date. We've got a severe storm. Well, for all intent and purposes, every storm out here tonight will be capable of producing severe caliber winds of 60 plus miles an hour. Some hail, and the more intense storms may also produce hurricane force winds and possibly a tornado. This storm near Clarendon, I think, is still evolving. Notice it's cellular. We're going to have to see if it can get its act together. This storm southwest of Mobetti, southeast of LaFours, is clearly well defined. That little donut there, that's what we call a bounded weak ecoregion. That is where the winds in the mesocyclone, or the rotating updraft of the storm, are spinning hard enough to actually push the rain outwards cylindrically. And that allows for a bit of a donut hole there. That's not an actual tornado on radar right now. That's just where we have very strong rotation from this thunderstorm. And again, this is going to be coming up on Wheeler in the next 15 to 20 minutes by at least 6:10 p.m. For what it's worth, if you want a comparison with today's storm system strength, El Paso recorded a 71 mile an hour wind gust earlier with a dust storm. That's the seventh strongest wind gust measured in El Paso's history since records began in 1878. So, I realize Jenny Brown may be able to recollect that from 1878, but that was a long time ago. And again, this thing is probably going to try and put a tornado down soon. It has extremely impressive visual structure on it, and we're going to get a view of that visual structure as the storm approaches Stephen and Ben. Stephen and Ben right now are just west of Wheeler, Texas, I believe on 152, as this thunderstorm to their southwest moves to the northeast. And you can see the feed from Adam Lucio, Chelsea Burnett, Alex Bartholomew, Jenny Brown is back. Let me see where they are. They're probably going to be up in that neck of the woods soon, too. And again, today, this is going to be a day where you can't really chase the storms as much as you can set up, watch it go by, and wave it goodbye because they're moving at 75 miles an hour. 70 to 75 miles an hour. Again, these things are flying. All right. Back southwest. And again, I'm just looking for some suspicious storm structure. Given the very strong wind shear, sometimes these things will spin up really quick. And each of these storms, west of Silverton, northwest of Silverton, southwest of Clarendon, all are rotating like the Dickens, rotating like a top. But are they able to translate those circulations down to the surface? I wouldn't be surprised if they are able to do that here in the next hour, but at this moment, no. And again, you can see we've got a storm north of Clarendon. That may have some hail with it, starting to show some signs of increasing rotation. This would be east now of Highway 70 by about a mile, probably 5 miles northeast of Clarendon, about 6-7 miles southeast of Howardwick, moving away from Clarendon, moving away from Howardwick, moving right towards McLean on I-40. So if this storm becomes tornadic, it's going to be a direct threat to Highway 273, right around Interstate 40 around McLean in the Texas Panhandle. And in fact, if you know any commercial vehicle drivers or anyone of the sort, I'd go ahead and encourage them not to bother. I-40 from Amarillo west right now is in the midst of a 70 to 80 mile an hour dust storm. Not great. Due west winds or southwest winds, but you've also got a wildfire near Adrian west of Vega. These storms, I-40 from where these storms are now, east of Amarillo to Oklahoma City by 10 to 11 p.m. is going to be a no-go. I-40 is not going to be a good place to be tonight. And as someone located in Moore, Oklahoma, I myself am not in a great place at the moment in terms of avoiding severe weather later. In fact, I've got a generator ready to go with some smaller inverters just in case we lose power, because we're going to be in the middle of a great show tonight. I know, dog. You agree. Sorry, dog demands attention. And as we head back south along the dry line with the radar, you can see that dry line pretty easily here. We got a storm going up near Matador. This whole dry line, I think, is probably going to unzip here a bit, maybe all the way south into Lubbock. West of the dry line, you've got west winds 60 to 70 miles per hour. All right, we've got a severe thunderstorm warning pretty much for every storm from Silverton to Canadian. Potential for tornadic circulations, winds of 70 plus miles per hour, and hail. Again, we've got live storm chasing video. You can watch each of these live streams on the right side of the screen. You can watch them individually with their audio. Head over to the Texas YouTube. How about this? The Texas Storm Chasers YouTube channel. Just search for Texas Storm Chasers. We are there. For when it comes to Texas, we're the ones to watch. Look, what's your deal? Sorry, the dog squealed. The dog's having a hissy fit. We'll say hi to dog real quick. What you doing? Hey, what you doing? Yeah. Angry dog. All right, so real quick, I'm going to take about a 45 to 60 second break. Stream's not going anywhere. We're going to jump on to the stream from Stephen Jones. Ben McComb, looks like theirs is running the steadiest. We'll join their stream as they are near Wheeler, Texas. I'm going to guess right now they're probably about to be in Mobetti, unless they're heading north. I'm actually surprised they're moving right now, to be honest. Yeah, they're on 152. They're in Wheeler right now. They're at the intersection of 152 and 83. Waiting for this storm to come in from back southwest of Mobetti. But again, we're going to join their stream for just a minute. I'm going to go give the dog her special anxiety medicine, because she does not like thunderstorms either. And then we will be back with live continuous severe weather coverage here on the Texas Storm Chasers.
Let me know where we need to be.
I'm trying. Probably up here a couple of miles, really. I think it's going to be the best bet.
This guy might be drunk. Way left to center.
That or super distracted. What base is that?
I assume this one.
Interesting. I guess everyone's coming north.
That's from Taylor, right? Nothing's happening in the south.
Nothing yet. is doing, it looks like it's trying to tighten up.
How far do we continue
Probably another mile.
All right, we're back. It's 5:59 on the 26th February 2023. The Texas Storm Chasers are out and about today. We've got pretty much our entire team out and about. Meteorologist Jason Cooley keeping an eye on things in the Metroplex in terms of keeping our video feeds up. He does a great job keeping our chasers technologically in line, keeping everything running well. Just had a wind gust of 76 miles per hour in Lubbock. No, visibility is 0. Sustained winds of about 50 miles an hour. Lubbock, you're currently in sustained tropical storm force conditions without the rain and with blowing dust. A legit dust storm. So we're keeping an eye on this storm north of McLean, southwest of Wheeler. But now we're also watching this storm coming up on McLean, south of Interstate 40. And you can see we've got a line of storms that's gone up really in the last 5 minutes. Right along the dry line from Pampa, west of Clarendon, all the way down to east of Tulia to Silverton. And again, we're just getting racked by wind across West Texas. I'm going to turn on surface winds real quick. And these are just current gusts. You can see we've got 64 mile an hour winds right now in Amarillo, 67 in Hereford, 66 in Lubbock behind the dry line, only 43 in Plainview. We've got upper 50 mile an hour winds, Seminole, Andrews, Odessa, 63 in Wink, 54 in Pecos, 49 in Fort Stockton. El Paso had 71 mile per hour winds earlier. The highest winds are now east of El Paso. But again, dust storm galore. It's a legit 1920 era dust storm right now in the western half of the Texas Panhandle, Lubbock, West Texas, the western Permian Basin. It is not good. And that's going to keep moving east-northeast this evening into northwest Texas, western Oklahoma. Just had a wind gust of about 61 miles an hour in Hereford again. Visibility below 3/4 of a mile in a dust storm. So again, this line of storms firing up from Silverton, just west of Clarendon, just west of Howardwick, Groom, Pampa, up Highway 70 to Booker is going to become our derecho tonight. Our long-lived, big-time high wind event across the eastern Panhandle, northwest Texas, most of Oklahoma. And that's where we have a level 4 out of 5 risk for severe storms tonight. Now, this is what happens when I let all the cities display. This is why I don't do that. So, again, that's where the highest threat, the red shaded here, well, let's just say this, the orange and red, level 3 and 4, wind gusts tonight in the most intense portions of this squall line could be, and I'm quoting the Storm Prediction Center here, 80 to 110 miles per hour, whether they are straight line or rotating. The potential for 80 to 110 mile an hour straight line winds, the potential for spin-up tornadoes with comparable wind speeds. And again, we're seeing the beginning of that now. With this line of thunderstorms, again, it's act together really quickly. And that line of storms is going to begin racing east at 60 to 75 miles an hour. Dog? You want pets? Yeah, I know. I know. Dog is angry. Dog doesn't like storms. Here, we'll say hi to Dog real quick. If I can find the camera button on here while petting the dog. There we go. Dog. Sorry, people. Here you go. Dag. The chaser dag. It's my job later tonight, if we come under the gun of severe weather, it's my job to take the dog and hide in the closet. That's what I'm really here for. I'm not here for severe weather coverage. I'm here to help. I'm here to keep the dog safe from the severe weather. So again, back to the fancy graphics. We've got Adam Lucio, Alex Bartholomew, Ben McComb, Chelsea Burnett, Jenny Brown, Trey Greenwood, Stephen Jones. Out and about today. We've got multiple live streams you can watch on our live storm or on our YouTube channel, Texas Storm Chasers. With these discrete storms, we're going to have to keep an eye out for spin-ups, but we're also going to have to keep an eye out on these line of storms developing. For example, we've got a circulation trying to spin up here southwest of Clarendon, it looks like. That might just be some bad radar data, but that's something we're going to have to watch. If so, that's going to move into Clarendon within the next 5 minutes. Supercell southwest of McLean, bit of an attitude there. Supercell currently on 152 near Wheeler. Now, this looks less organized than it did a bit earlier. It might still be fighting some cool air near the surface, which might help reduce the threat for tornadoes. We're going to have to see, but considering we've had multiple tornadoes around Dodge City, Kansas, I can't help but think we are probably going to have to keep an eye out for the same things here. And I guess what we can do real quick is I'm going to turn off all data. We're going to switch over to the high-res rapid refresh model. We're just going to take a look at what we believe is going to happen timeline-wise this evening. The high-res rapid refresh model's done a pretty good job with timing aspects today. So let me load that. Give me just a single moment, please. All right, we're going to load the model up for 6 p.m. It's actually 6:06 right now, but this will let us see how the model is doing in performance. You want to load? Pretty please, thank you. So what the model's actually doing pretty well right now. This is what it shows. It's missing some of the activity further west towards Turkey, but that's okay. This is 8 p.m. You can see the squall line's already raced into western Oklahoma. This is not going to be an issue long for the eastern panhandle. Line of intense thunderstorms from near just west of Alva, Woodward, Leedy, Elk City, west of Altus. And then the potential for some more scatter development along the dry line further south into northwest Texas, the big country. Here is 10 p.m. You can see this model, line of severe storms. Wichita, Kansas, down I-35, Oklahoma City. Lindsay, Oklahoma, Waurika, Oklahoma. And you can note this model run actually a little more ambitious with the storms coming all the way down into the big country in western North Texas. And that might be a thing. If so, some of these storms could have some hail, some damaging winds, maybe a tornado. But as these storms south of the Red River keep moving east, by midnight, they're going to be much weaker. Notice how we're down to a thin line of storms. Still a brief period of heavy rain, some strong winds up to 55 miles an hour, but a much lower severe threat. Going north, you can see the storms in Oklahoma. They're almost to Arkansas by midnight. This is only 6 hours from now, from near McLean to east of Henrietta. These are going to be moving at highway speeds. And again, it's going to be a windy night across the entire state of Texas. Here is 2 a.m. line of storms is a line of showers now along the leading edge of the dry line / the wind shift. And then storms moving into Missouri. So that is the expectation over the next several hours. Our chasers are near Wheeler, Texas right now. And we're going to get back to the business of covering severe storms. So we've got a tornado warning. We've got a circulation west of Wheeler. We've got a circulation southwest of Clarendon. That might be a spin-up tornado. And again, we're going to have to watch for spin-up tornadoes in this squall line tonight. And these storms are moving more easterly now than northeast. So, as this dry line / line of storms keeps racing east, it's going to be out of the Texas Panhandle probably by 8 o'clock, maybe 7:30. They're moving east at about 60 to 70 miles an hour. Behind them, after the rain, we've got winds of 60 to 70 miles an hour and a wall of dust. So this entire line from Silverton coming up to Clarendon, Howardwick, McLean, all the way up to Wheeler, could have winds 60, 70, 80 plus miles an hour. The potential for spin-up tornadoes that could happen quickly and with similar intensities as the straight line winds. For example, southwest of Clarendon, probably a little spin-up tornado right there. And again, that's going to move probably like that. If this is moving more easterly now, it may move like that. But regardless, damaging to destructive severe storms, and there's the latest scan. You can see it's pretty much gone. And also moving extremely quickly to the east. So again, line of severe storms, the potential for some small hail. The hail sizes are coming down. We're generally down to about dimes to pennies. The potential for hurricane force winds of 70 to 80 plus miles an hour. The potential for spin-up tornadoes. We've got a severe thunderstorm warning issued for Briscoe, Childress, Cottle, Floyd, Hall, Motley counties until 7:15. And that'll be for these storms down here in just a minute. And the Weather Service in Lubbock has issued the severe storm warning for 80-mile-an-hour winds, which is going to set your phones off. They're going to go chirping and making squealing noises, and that's because the winds of over 80 miles an hour. We've got a new tornado warning now. Allen Reed. It's probably going to be this storm right here. So again, this storm, it's going to show up here in a second. I don't know why these warnings are doing this. Let's try that. I'm going to restart this program real quick, but that's a tornado warning there now for a circulation southeast of Allen Reed coming up on the community of McLean. Beautiful town, honestly. I've been there many a times. So those of you in McLean, go ahead and take your tornado safety precautions. It's going to be the lowest floor, center room. Away from windows, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. I don't know what's going on, why this warning's not popping up on here. I don't like that. Those of you in McLean, you need to be in a safe place. It's going to be lowest floor, center room, away from windows. Have as many walls between you and the outside as possible. I'm going to try resetting this again. This is not a good time for there to be a latency delay with displaying warnings, but technology and I never do get along, so... Alright, looks like we have it now. Thank you, Lord. So here we go. Severe thunderstorm warnings. This whole line in the eastern panhandle, 60 to 80 plus mile an hour winds. The potential for spin-up tornadoes. We have 2 tornado warnings right now. 1, and the most concerning, coming into McLean right now. 2, just northwest of Wheeler. Both storms moving northeast at a brisk 60 to 70 miles an hour. These thunderstorms are capable of producing, again, hurricane-force straight-line winds over 75 miles an hour. The potential for spin-up tornadoes. The potential for pocket change size hail. Some of these individual storms may have hail larger, up to the size of golf balls. But again, we're going to have to watch for kinks in this line for spin-up tornadoes. For example, just west of 70 and 256, that kink right there. That might be a little spin up or at least enhanced damaging wind. We've probably got enhanced winds moving into Clarendon and Howardwick right now. The potential for golf ball size hail and a tornado very near McLean on Interstate 40 and the eastern Texas panhandle. And these storms are generally moving northeast now at about 60 plus miles an hour. We're watching live streams, our Chaser live streams. You got Stephen Jones and Ben McCone. I believe they're still near Wheeler. I'll double check. Yeah, they're just north of Wheeler on Highway 83. With this thunderstorm passing just north of Wheeler now, not seeing a great velocity signature on it. And then we've got a circulation near McLean, in addition to probably some wind-driven hail. But this line of storms racing east at a very quick 60-plus miles an hour. Going to be in Childress by 7. Essling, aka Speed Trap Town, about 6:40 to 6:45. Memphis by about 6:35. Turkey in the next 5 minutes. A wildfire showing up on the radar data out here near Adrian. 500 acres, plus no containment. The Big Fins Fire. So again, west of the dry line across the Panhandle, West Texas, we have 60 to 75 mile an hour winds, visibility below 1/2 mile, and a dust storm, and we have wildfires breaking out and spreading extremely quickly. These individual storms here are going to get eaten up by this squall line pretty quick, as this line of storms moves east quickly at about 60 to 70 miles an hour. So again, I'll just go ahead and we'll do a half-hour loop. All this is going to be is a 1/2 hour loop. Maybe. Maybe. All right, we'll do it this way. So again, this is just going to be a half-hour loop. Look how quickly that line of storms formed, and look how quickly it's moving east. Understand, you're looking at a 25 to 30 minute time loop right now. This isn't like an hour or two. This line of storms is moving east at 60 to 70 miles an hour. So essentially areas from Paducah to Childress to Wellington to Shamrock to Wheeler. You've got a couple of individual storms, but the main line with very strong winds up to 80 plus miles an hour, maybe some pocket change size hail, cloud to ground lightning. That could start wildfires, I might add, moving east quickly at about 60 to 70. And then you're going to have winds behind all this out of the west at 60 to 75 for a couple of hours yet, with blowing dust and the potential for fast-moving wildfires if a fire breaks out, which is easier to happen when you have 60 to 75 mile an hour winds knocking power lines down. That's just a thing that's bound to happen. Northeastern Texas Panhandle, really not much going on. Canadian up to Follett, Perryton, these storms are not doing too much right now, at least in the spinny / mega wind department. But again, it's going to be windy for y'all too. You can see our Storm Chaser feed from Stephen Jones and Ben McCone. There we go. Now you can actually see my face without my face blocking the radar key. And again, through this evening, we're going to have 60, 70, 80 mile an hour winds across most of the Texas Panhandle out of the west. We're going to have those strong winds causing a plethora of blowing dust issues. Fires are going to move quickly, if any develop. And then these storms with damaging winds, potential spin-up tornadoes, etc., moving into western, southwestern Oklahoma over the next hour. Maybe parts of northwest Texas and the northern mid-country, depending on how far south it gets. If so, the highest threat for severe will be from Abilene up to Childress, to Mineral Wells, to Bowie. And then storms are going to be weakening pretty quick south of the Red River east of there. Got a reported golf ball size hail on Interstate 40 about 5 miles east of McLean. That makes sense. We'll stop that animation, head back over to the high-res radar data. You can see this little storm about to get eaten by the squall line. Not a strong rotation, but some pretty good hail cores still showing up with this, likely being efficient at transporting strong to damaging to destructive winds down to the surface, 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. These storms, again, moving east at 50, 60 to 70 miles per hour. I'll put a tracker on it real quick. Do some manual tracking here. Again, for the sake of timing, I'm going to do 65 miles an hour. And you can see, going to be in Childress in about 30 minutes or less, likely by about 6:50. Memphis, probably within the next 5 to 10 minutes. Hollis, Oklahoma, by 7. Shamrock, the line of storms in about 15 minutes, so 6:37. Sayre, Oklahoma, about 7:05. Cheyenne, Oklahoma, 7:05. And then this is going to be coming into Willow to just west of Mangum, Oklahoma in about 1 hour. Childress, about 6:50. Paducah, if the storms keep developing south, about 6:50, 6:55. And then eventually, Quanah, Vernon, perhaps if this line of storms fires more south, we could have places like Haskell, Seymour, Wichita Falls, the potential for a line of storms with some strong winds later this evening. Regardless of storm development, this dry line is going to have winds of 50 to 70 miles an hour tonight as it arrives at your location in northwest Texas with a wall of dust. Back to the velocity mode. Pretty good signature of damaging straight line winds about to move into Turkey. That'll be moving towards Estling and Childress thereafter. Same thing goes for Lakeview on Highway 256 to Memphis. Headley. Clarendon, you're done with the rain. It's going to be windy now out of the west. You're going to probably have dust come in. Looks like we had 80-plus mile-an-hour winds in Clarendon as this storm came through. That is enough of the storm cell tracks, that's for sure. So we're watching a couple things. Nothing's really screaming tornado genesis right now. But again, very strong winds. And then behind the storms, Very strong winds continue for a couple of hours. We've got winds of 55 to 65 miles an hour moving into Midland and Odessa now with dust. And again, this is all moving east at 60 to 70 miles an hour. Places like Wheeler, Shamrock, Wellington, Childress, Memphis, S-Line on 287, almost down to Paducah. The potential for 60, 70, 80 mile an hour winds over the next hour or less. And then after that, we might see storms develop a little further south, maybe down to 380, maybe down to I-20 in about 2 hours, as this dry line keeps moving east quickly. So we may have storms here in northwest Texas. If storms fire up, we could have some pocket change size hail, some strong winds, maybe the threat for spin up tornadoes. But this is the beginning of a derecho, or a long-lived damaging wind event that'll span over several hundred miles. This line of storms by about probably 1 a.m. is going to be near Joplin, Missouri to probably east of Fort Smith, Arkansas. And these severe thunderstorm warnings being issued from, say, Childress, Wellington, Shamrock, Wheeler, they include what's called a destructive tag in the warning because hurricane force winds over 80 miles an hour are expected. What that does is it sets your phones off for the wireless emergency alert. Your phones are probably going something like that. So that's why that's happening. You probably got a message saying destructive winds over 80 miles per hour. And that's what these storms, this line of storms, is producing as it moves east at 60 to 70 miles an hour. Again, when the storms themselves are moving at 70 miles an hour, it's not that hard to mix down 70 to 80 mile an hour winds to the surface. I mean, it's just the momentum of movement. But it looks like we're down to one discrete storm ahead of the line of storms. That's going to be this storm northwest of Shamrock. Could have golf ball size hail. Probably going to have some wind-driven hail in Wheeler in the next few minutes. But this line of storms is about to overtake it. Here you can see a line of storms now from Turkey to Headley to McLean to Miami. Once this line of storms moves east of you, you are done with precipitation for the night. You are going to have west winds up to 70 miles an hour, blowing dust, and any wildfires break out, they're going to move in a hurry, even if it just rained. And then these storms are going to be moving into Oklahoma with a threat of widespread damaging winds, spin up tornadoes, maybe some pocket change size hail. And that is just the name of the game tonight. So you can see, here's just a look at the last hour of radar data. How quickly this line of storms materialized and began moving east at 60 miles an hour. And that's because we have an upper level jet, winds about 18,000 feet above our heads, screaming at 150 miles an hour. We've got winds about 3,000 feet above the ground, screaming at 100 miles an hour. So that's pushing these storms really quickly to the east. So this is going to be out of the eastern Texas panhandle. Honestly, I mean, at this rate, they're going to be out of the eastern Texas panhandle probably in the next 45 minutes or less. And then we'll have to watch northwest Texas south of the Red River. In terms of Texas. In terms of Oklahoma, pretty much everyone in Oklahoma, western Oklahoma, southwestern Oklahoma, northwestern Oklahoma, central Oklahoma, northern Oklahoma, northeastern Oklahoma, everyone that is not east of I-35 and south of I-40 in Oklahoma, you're going to have problems with severe storms tonight. Damaging winds up to hurricane force, spin up tornadoes, maybe some pocket change size hail. You can see lightning on the live stream from Stephen Jones. 59-mile-an-hour wind gust in Turkey, 59-mile-an-hour wind gust in Leslie, which is northeast of Turkey, a 79-mile-an-hour gust in Clarendon as these storms came through. So this line of storms has produced at least winds of 79 miles an hour. It produced that in Clarendon. It makes sense that this entire line could be doing it as well. So again, 70 to 80 mile an hour winds with this entire line of storms racing east across the eastern Texas panhandle. Restart our program real quick. See our storm tracks. These storms moving east at about 70 miles an hour, capable of producing 70 to 80 mile an hour winds, maybe spin up tornadoes, some pocket change size hail, but I think the widespread hurricane force straight line winds are going to be the big issue here. That's certainly enough to cause some roof damage, knock some fences down, cause some trees to come down, knock the power lines down, which could spark grass fires, which then would spread quickly behind the storms with west winds of 70 miles an hour and blowing dust. We've already got a big wildfire over 500 acres west of Vega near Interstate 40 near Adrian, being driven by winds out of the west at 70 miles an hour and visibility near 1/4 mile. We know the Weather Service in Norman has issued a tornado warning for portions of, I believe that's Roger Mills, and then Ellis County, Oklahoma, for a possible tornado 5 miles northeast of Allison, moving northeast towards eventually leading Camargo and Visay near Raiden, Oklahoma there. So that's a little spin up potential there. Near Allison, Texas, that'll be out of the panhandle in a few minutes, moving into Oklahoma. Let me see if I can't get rid of some of these storm tracks. They're useful at times, but not when you have too many of them. There we go. Again, the good news is, well, there we go. There's something that was trying to spin up a minute ago, south of Headley, northwest of Memphis. I mean, these storms are producing 80 mile an hour winds anyway, but brief spin up tornadoes, 80 mile an hour winds from a tornado, 80 mile an hour winds from straight line winds. That's just not great. So that's why your phones are chirping and you should be taking shelter. We note some of these storms are actually showing a pretty good hail core aloft right now. We haven't had any recent reports of hail. The largest hail report I believe we've received was a golf ball size hail report east of McLean about 20 minutes ago. And that was with a storm that's about to be eaten by the squall line. A little bit of a circulation showing up there. Northwest of Shamrock, southwest of Wheeler, where Stephen Jones and Ben McCone and the other chasers are located. And you can see it just in the span of 2 minutes. That's how quickly these storms are moving. So there's your circulation coming up on Highway 83, passing north of Shamrock, south of Wheeler. But a line of storms is right on its heel, producing 70 to 80 mile an hour straight line winds. All right, I've had it with these pointy label things of doom. Too many. Overload. There we go. So again, some of these storms in the squall line are showing some circulations now. Northeast of Headley, southeast of Headley, just northwest of Memphis, all down the line. And again, these storms are producing winds of 70 to 80 miles an hour. They could produce brief spin up tornadoes too, but frankly, spin up tornado versus a 80 mile an hour straight line wind, they're kind of tomato. It's going to do the same thing. So we'd encourage no travel on 287 from, let's just say, Quanah to Memphis right now. This storm near Turkey going to bring hail, strong winds to Childress in the next 20 minutes. Memphis storm going to impact Wellington the next 15 minutes. Headley storm, same thing, next 15 minutes around Wellington, all the way up to Shamrock on I-40. Wheeler, you've got a severe storm over you that could drop a tornado south of town. I believe that's what Stephen Jones has been watching. And then this storm south of Wheeler, it's going to be in Oklahoma probably in 10 minutes or less as it moves east-northeast at 40, how about 70 miles an hour. This storm near Memphis showing a pretty gnarly hail core loft right now. It could have some golf ball size hail with it. Just had a 63 mile an hour wind gust in Amarillo from blowing dust. These storms are now moving into the easternmost column of counties in the Panhandle, and then they will be in Oklahoma. We note tornado warnings are going to be issued for some of these into Oklahoma. Again, right now, a circulation currently on Highway 83 south of Wheeler. It's going to be moving east-northeast towards Sweetwater, Oklahoma, Dempsey, Oklahoma, passing well northwest of Sire and north of Eric. Eventually, it might be an issue for Cheyenne, Oklahoma. So that's the southern circulation that will soon be moving into Oklahoma. That's on 83 near Wheeler. These storms from Canadian to McLean to Headley to Memphis to Turkey, moving east at about 55 to 60 miles an hour, have a history of producing winds up to 80 miles an hour. Pocket change size hail. Can't rule out spin up tornadoes. Again, we'll put the loop back on just over the last hour. And again, these things are flying. These are going to be out of the Panhandle. I mean, I said 7:15 10 minutes ago, but honestly, the rate they're going, these things moved across an entire county in about 30 minutes, so maybe 7:05 to 7:15. All right, we just had a wind gust in Lubbock of 71 miles an hour at the International Airport with a dust storm. Visibility under 1/4 mile. Speaking of fun, you can see Steven and them enjoying a heavy rain storm around Wheeler down to Shamrock. Let's just watch them real quick.
Velocity not as impressive, but still there.
How far up?
A couple miles.
You can see, I believe they are in Wheeler right now. In association with those storms that are moving east. Again, we're about to have damaging hurricane force winds in Childress, probably in Memphis, Texas right now, up through Wellington, up 83 into Shamrock in the next several minutes. Something interesting with this little discrete storm around Wheeler, we'll go back to the high-res radar. It's actually showing a pretty good jump in lightning right now. I don't have the lightning data on because it would clutter the screen, but pretty strong inflow being detected. Pretty good circulation, honestly. So this thing may be trying to drop a tornado southeast of Wheeler right now. Wheeler, if you're in Wheeler proper, give it another 5 minutes, and then you'll be done with the threat of a tornado from this storm. You're going to have strong west winds behind this line of storms, but then the threat will shift into western Oklahoma, Sweetwater, Oklahoma, Dempsey, Oklahoma, Cheyenne, Oklahoma. The potential for a tornado up to Strong City, Oklahoma, just west of Hammond. So Raiden, Oklahoma, Cheyenne, Oklahoma, Strong City, Oklahoma, just west of Hammond, Oklahoma, the potential for a storm to produce a tornado. That's currently 5 miles southeast of Wheeler, Texas, moving into the western sections of Oklahoma. Looks like the dust storm warning, which is probably going to also set your phones off, is being expanded to all of West Texas. So a full-fledged, massive dust storm moving east into all of West Texas. Same thing goes for the Permian Basin. A literal wall of dust. Honestly, some of this dust is probably going to make it into the hill country in North Texas tonight. Probably not super dense, but it's going to be noticeable. And then we're going to do this again on Thursday, except the dust storm's probably going to be a lot farther southeast, as with a threat for severe weather. And maybe snow. I like snow. All right, it's 6:41 p.m. I'm Texas Storm Chasers David Reimer, the Baldy-in-Chief, live with severe weather coverage for the eastern Texas Panhandle. We're here when you need us. A line of severe storms capable of producing winds of 80 miles an hour. Moving into Estling now, Wellington in the next 10 minutes, Childress in the next 15 minutes, Shamrock in the next 5 minutes, a supercell capable of producing a tornado now passing south and east of Wheeler. On 152, that'll be moving into western Oklahoma shortly. Up towards Cheyenne, Oklahoma, Raiden, Oklahoma, Strong City, just west of Hammond, eventually towards Leedy. A separate tornado warning that does include areas from Raiden up to near Leedy, Oklahoma, near Camargo eventually, and maybe near Visay. And then we've got a line of severe storms capable of producing some pocket change size hail and hurricane force winds up to 80 miles an hour from just southwest of Shamrock, now just west of Wellington, probably by 10 miles. Down to Memphis, Estling, south and east of Turkey now to just north of Matador. Moving east at, let's say about 55 to 60 miles an hour. Could also see some quarter-size hail and spin up tornadoes. That was a good stretch. I-40 is closed about 20 miles east or into Texas from New Mexico due to a wreck. So again, let's go ahead and zoom back out a bit. Let's take a look at what we're expecting for the remainder of this evening. With that, I'm going to take all the data off the screen. Switch on the upper third banner. And we'll take a look at the high-resolution rapid refresh model. Let's take a look at 7 p.m. Now, this is the model at 7 p.m. Central Time. It might be a little slow with the eastward progression of the storms, but not bad overall with storms down to Turkey. Let's go to 8 o'clock. You could see this actually tries to fire storms all the way down to near Colorado City on the dry line. Storms racing east into western Oklahoma. Potential for some strong storms into northwest Texas, Vernon. These storms could have some high winds, 70-plus miles an hour. Potential for some pocket change size hail, maybe spin up tornadoes. So that's 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock. The HER model now fires a line of storms, broken probably all the way down to near Big Lake. Some of these storms in the big country, northwest Texas, probably severe with pocket change size hail, winds of 65 to 75 miles an hour. You could see intense storms west central Oklahoma. Here is 10 o'clock. Storms south of the Red River generally weakening. Mostly showers, a couple isolated storms from San Angelo in the Concho Valley, Cisco, Eastland in western North Texas or the eastern big country. Showers and a couple of storms, maybe a severe storm into northwest Texas, western North Texas up to Bowie. Line of severe storms moving into the Oklahoma City metro, Stillwater, Oklahoma, Arkansas City, Kansas to Wichita, Kansas. Potential for significant damaging straight line winds. Here's midnight. Line of showers, maybe some storms, could have gusty winds still, but a much lower threat for severe weather south of the Red River, extending from near, let's say Bonham down to Frisco, down to Fort Worth, Granbury, Hamilton, Goldthwaite to Brady to Junction. Strong northwest winds behind this line of storms, while east of the line we may have south winds gusting up to 50 miles an hour. Here's 2 a.m., a line of showers, maybe some thunderstorms extending from near Kerrville, Waco, Canton, New Boston. Severe threat at this point is low. Here's 4 a.m. line of showers with gusty winds moving in through the Brazos Valley and East Texas. So again, that is the general expectation over the next few hours and into tonight. So let's go ahead. Let's switch back over to our live radar data. At this point, we have a line of severe storms making their way from near Matador to Esteline to Speed Trap Town on 287 to west of Wellington to Shamrock, Texas. Our only tornado warning is with a storm about 3 minutes from moving into western Oklahoma. If you're in Wheeler, you're clear from this potential tornado. Wellington, Shamrock, 60 to 70 to 80 mile an hour winds over the next 10 minutes. Esteline, you're getting those winds now. Memphis, you're done with the storms. You're going to have strong northwest winds over the next several minutes. If you are in Childress, you're going to have storms in the next 15 minutes. The potential for winds up to... You gotta be kidding me. West Texas Mesonet, Memphis, Texas, 114 mile per hour wind gust. So again, when I said these storms are producing hurricane force winds, we've now had confirmation of a 114 mile an hour wind gust in Memphis at 6:37 p.m. So these storms mean business. Not only are they producing hurricane force winds, they are producing almost major hurricane force winds. So again, winds of 80 to 115 miles per hour possible in Childress, Esteline, Wellington to Shamrock over the next 15 minutes. This is a particularly dangerous situation with tornado-like winds possible in a large area. These thunderstorms are capable of producing winds over 100 miles per hour. At 6:37 p.m., a 114 mile per hour wind gust was measured in Memphis, Texas. Right there. 114. That's going to ruin your day. That's about the simplest way I can put it. And we now have a tornado warning for Collingsworth County. This does include the community of Wellington and Dodson. This is going to be for a thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. This is also the thunderstorm that produced the 114 mile an hour wind gust in Memphis. So again, this is a tornado warning for a thunderstorm with a history of producing winds up to 114 miles per hour. It's now possibly producing a tornado with that. So this thunderstorm is going to do a number on Wellington to Dodson. Tornado safe places. It's going to be your lowest floor, center room, away from windows. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Seriously, get away from west-facing windows. Get away from west-facing rooms. This storm is going to ruin your day. Do not be anywhere near glass. This thing is pissed. That is my meteorological definition. This thing's pissed. So again, this thunderstorm has the potential, has a history. I'm sorry, let's be clear here. A history of 114 mile an hour wind gust in Memphis, Texas. That's moving into Wellington, Texas right now. That wind gust was measured on a West Texas Mesonet station, a very reliable piece of equipment. They have a very high quality and control standard. So that gust is valid. It sounds like Memphis, Texas also had quarter-size hail, which means that quarter-size hail was driven by nearly Category 3 hurricane winds. That's unfortunate. So again, we've got that. Now, on the separate side of the spectrum, we have a dust storm warning for Snyder, Colorado City, Big Spring, Gale. We've got vehicles stuck on the highways because there's no visibility. So again, this is a severe thunderstorm with a history of producing winds up to 114 miles an hour back in Memphis, moving east at about 60 miles an hour. And if you're in Wellington, it's there. It's there. I mean, this thing's moving at 60. Wellington's probably getting their socks blown off right now. In fact, there's a Mesonet station at Wellington, so we're going to know pretty quick just how strong the winds in Wellington are. Ahead of the line of storms, the wind right now, okay, we're getting multiple reports here. We've got power lines down in Shamrock. We've got broken out windows and stuff blown all over the place in Memphis, which you'd expect with 114 mile an hour wind gusts. So again, this line of storms has a history of producing major wind damage and winds up to 114 miles an hour. This line of storms is also, like the HRRR showed, starting to fire further south. Now, the further south this gets, the lower the threat of severe weather. At least in the, I'm going to drop a tornado / 100 mile an hour winds on you, but they're still probably going to be problematic. These thunderstorms are capable of producing winds over 90 to 110 miles an hour. And they're racing east at a very brisk 70 plus miles an hour. Now, the Weather Service in Norman thinks these are moving at 95 miles an hour now. I don't think so. I think it's 70 to 75, but these are booking. Childress, you're going to have very strong winds here in just a moment. The potential for winds up to 100 miles an hour. All right, Wellington just measured a 72-mile-an-hour wind gust. Literally, I'm watching it live as the data comes in with the West Texas Mesonet station. So we've got at least 70-mile-an-hour winds in Wellington. We'll see if that gets any higher. I wouldn't be surprised. And this is all thanks to the West Texas Mesonet station. Estling, you're up to 62 miles an hour right now. We've got a severe thunderstorm warning for Childress, Northern Motley, Northern Cottle, and Hall counties. At 6:52 p.m., a line of severe storms were located along a line extending from 5 miles north of Quail to 13 miles east of Memphis to 8 miles northeast of Matador, moving east at 55 miles an hour. These storms are capable of producing 100-plus mile-an-hour winds and golf ball size hail. We've got problems in Memphis. That 100 to 115 mile an hour wind gust that 114 mile an hour wind gust that was measured in Memphis at 6:37 was accompanied by wind-driven golf ball size hail. That has caused, that probably knocked out every west-facing window in that town. That might honestly have been a spin-up tornado. But regardless, 100 mile an hour straight line winds, 100 mile an hour tornado is going to ruin your day. And I realize this is probably 5 minutes from being in Oklahoma for the Panhandle, but those of you in western Oklahoma, southwestern Oklahoma, central Oklahoma, it's coming for you. As someone who's literally sitting in Moore, Oklahoma right now, it's coming for me, and it's coming for the dag. The dag's received her anxiety medication, by the way. She's currently very happy in her dog bed. And I've got a generator in the garage waiting to go, assuming the garage door doesn't get blown in and take the generator with it. But you know what? Just something tells me I'm going to be streaming live storm chasing video from my front door here in about 2 hours as this line of storms rolls in. So, yeah. Sorry, I've got a lot of monitors around me. I'm just trying to maintain situational awareness. Okay, so we've got power poles down in Shamrock. Near Twitty, we've got Barnes gone. This line of storms about to move into Childress could have winds over 100 miles an hour. Peak wind gust in Estling was 62 miles an hour. Peak wind gust... Oh, that's not right. Hold up, wait a minute. In Wellington was 72 miles an hour. Peak gust in Memphis was 114 miles per hour. So these storms are not happy. We've got blowing dust around Amarillo, visibility below a quarter mile. Sounds like we're getting gradient winds increasing ahead of these storms in northwest Texas. Hollis, Oklahoma's already lost power completely just from the winds ahead of the storms, and these winds are going to be increasing substantially across northwest Texas, western central Oklahoma over the next hour. And we note storms starting to fire up down the dry line. So we're going to have to keep an eye on it. Some data suggest it may make it down to San Angelo later. The threat for severe storms will definitely be on the decrease once storms make it from east of Wichita Falls, east of Abilene, south of I-20. But northwest Texas, your threat of severe storms is definitely increasing over the next hour. And again, these storms in the eastern panhandle have a history of producing possibly brief tornadoes, golf ball size hail, and we've had a wind gust of 114 miles per hour measured in Memphis, Texas. And again, we've got a tornado warning now for Hollis to near Mangum, Oklahoma. You can see circulation about to hit Dodson, Texas. Those of you in Dodson, Texas, be in a safe place. You've been under a tornado warning for a while now. But you need to be in a safe place. Lowest floor, center room, away from windows. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Sounds like one of our chase crews, Ben and Steven, going back to the box here, reporting they may have been hit by a brief spin-up tornado. Their ears popped. Apparently, their passenger side tires kind of left the ground a little. And they're in a heavy-duty Ford Expedition. So, these storms, again, mean business. And they're blowing into western Oklahoma. And northwest Texas. And they're moving east at 70-plus miles an hour. Again, these storms are going to keep moving east in a hurry. We've got winds gusting up to about 70 miles an hour in Hereford right now, which is southwest of Amarillo. That is in association with gradient winds. Again, that's a dust storm, not associated with thunderstorm activity. Our issue is going to be here from Childress over the next several minutes. And notice how the radar is having so much of a problem de-aliasing. That's what we call when we go bright blue, bright pink, etc. The winds are so strong, the radar is having issues actually telling the wind direction. So we're just going to have to use reflectivity signatures right now. And let me tell you, this thing's trying to put a tornado down near Dodson, Texas. It's going to pass near or just north of Hollis on Highway 62. And the potential for a tornado may pass just north of Hollis, just north of Gold, and eventually towards Mangum, Oklahoma. Storm Prediction Center just issued a discussion, which I'm going to read real quick. And again, it's after dark now, so the only thing you're going to see on our chasing feeds right now probably is lightning. That's their stream. Oh, that's my Me watching an old version of the Facebook stream. Okay, thanks, Facebook. Okay, so again, a possible spin-up tornado, or tornado itself, near Dodson, Texas. That's southeast of Wellington. Now, Wellington, you're clear. It's about to get really windy from the west, but you're going to be clear from this. That's just that's a dangerous storm, let me tell you. So Hollis up to Mangum to Willow, Oklahoma, being a safe place. That'll be lowest floor, center room, away from windows. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Childress, you're about to get raked by a very intense line of storms capable of producing winds up to 100 miles per hour. We're keeping an eye out for West Texas mesonet observations. So they've got weather stations everywhere out there. Childress right now, winds gusting to 52 miles an hour out of the south ahead of those storms. So Childress is getting almost severe caliber winds ahead of these storms out of the south. And again, that's going to happen Quanah, Vernon, etc., maybe even Wichita Falls. Y'all may have winds over 60 miles an hour ahead of these storms from the south. But this is definitely a very dangerous situation for Dodson to north of Hollis, Oklahoma to near Mangum. This thing's spinning up, and probably one of the best signatures I've seen tonight in terms of a supercellular tornado threat. You can see latest radar scan there. What you're looking at is pretty good supercell structure. This is what we call an embedded supercell in a squall line. This is going to be your inflow region. This is going to be your rear flank downdraft, possibility of 100 to 120 mile an hour winds and hail. The which way the wind's blowing mode, you can see it there. Again, the radar's there's so much wind shear tonight, the radar's having de-aliasing issues, meaning it just can't tell which way the wind's blowing, etc., and it's going to paint the radar with pretty bright colors. So we're going to be using a mix, as we always do, of velocity and reflectivity, but more so reflectivity. Looking south, line of severe storms moving into Childress. Line of severe storms building south pretty quickly now. You can see the whole dry line's unzipping. Her model was correct. Big Spring to Snyder to Spur. Got a line of storms unzipping. Some of these could become intense pretty quick here with hail and strong winds, at least mixing those strong winds down from the low-level jet, which is cranking at about 100 miles an hour just a few thousand feet above the ground. I just had a wind gust of about 70 miles an hour in Childress out of the west as this storm's coming in. So we have at least 70 mile an hour winds from the west moving into Childress now with heavy rain, the potential for blowing dust galore. And then these storms now extending down to Paducah. Quarter-size hail, maybe golf ball-size hail. The hail threat seems to be going up again. And the potential for winds of 70 to 80 miles an hour. Showers that could become storms firing up quickly now, all the way down to near Big Spring. We're going to have to keep an eye on that closely. Some of those storms could become severe with some hail, some strong winds. Our tornado threat, we now have no tornado warnings in the state of Texas, at least in terms of there actually being a tornado. A probable tornado developing now just north of Hollis, Oklahoma, by about 7 miles on Highway 30. That could become a strong, significant tornado moving towards Mangum, Oklahoma. If you live in Mangum, Oklahoma, or know anyone who lives near there, you should tell them to watch the weather. They've got a tornado coming. Line of severe storms producing damaging winds, 70 to 80 miles an hour. Potential for quarter to golf ball size hail moving east at about 50 to 65 miles an hour near Childress. About 10 miles west of Paducah. Now starting to build south near Jayden, Snyder to Big Spring. And again, looking at the which way the wind's blowing mode, the radar is having a heck of a time figuring this out tonight just because the wind's aloft, so much wind shear, the radar simply can't handle it. But you can see very clearly we've got a very angry circulation now east of Dodson in Oklahoma, north of Hollis, north of Highway 62, moving towards Mangum, Oklahoma. A dangerous situation. I-27 near Tulia is closed due to dust storm. We've got reports of some damage in Lubbock from the strong winds. And again, we've got behind this line of storms 50, 60, even 70 mile an hour winds west of the dry line, west of these storms across West Texas, the Texas Panhandle. Real quick, I'll put on surface wind gusts. You're just going to see the numbers. I'm not going to put a title up here, but you'll see the numbers pop up. We've got 63 right now in Lubbock, 63 in Plainview, 67 Hereford, only 56 in Amarillo. Starting to calm down a bit in the northwestern Panhandle, 46 in Dumas. South in the Permian Basin, we've got winds 55, 60 in Midland, Odessa, Pecos, Andrews, Hobbs, New Mexico, Seminole, Texas. And then you can see the dry line starting to fire storms up. Head back to the radar with the warnings. Hail now likely falling in Childress. We likely have hail about to fall in Paducah. You can see Stephen Jones. They're enjoying themselves a nice lightning storm. Just a wall of dust coming across West Texas. Sorry, I'm doing some chores. Ooh, that was a nice lightning shot from Stephen Jones. Let me see where they are real quick, and then we'll do an overview of what's going on right now. They're actually back in western Oklahoma now. They are coming up on Highway 283 and Highway 6 north of Sayre, so they're actually way out in western Oklahoma. And again, these storms have now exited the eastern Texas Panhandle. I'll turn off, or I'll switch radar data real quick and try and give us a loop. which it doesn't feel like doing, so we'll do it the difficult way. We'll just load a 1 hour data loop, and you can see these storms are flying. They moved across 2 columns of counties in the Panhandle in an hour. These are moving at 60 to 70 miles an hour. So what we're dealing with is a line of severe storms now racing into western Oklahoma and northwest Texas. And these storms, there we go. Will continue to move east at a fast rate. You can see over the last 20 minutes or so, these storms have also begun to quickly unzip along the dry line further south. And that means we could be dealing with some hail and some strong damaging straight line winds in portions of northwest Texas, maybe even the Big Country, over the next hour or two. Now, these storms will weaken quickly once they make it into western North Texas. But strongest storms over the next few hours in northwest Texas, the Big Country, could have hail up to the size of golf balls. The potential for winds of 60, 70, maybe even over 80 miles an hour. Can't rule out a tornado. Highest threat for big-time severe weather is going to be north of the Red River in Oklahoma, western Oklahoma, southwestern Oklahoma, into eventually central Oklahoma and northern Oklahoma a bit later this evening. And this is going to be interesting because I'm in Moore, Oklahoma, and that line of storms is probably going to hit me here in about 2 hours or less with maybe 70 to 90 mile an hour winds, in which case we may take some power hits here, which is a little interesting because most of the equipment running the live streams for our storm chasers happens to be sitting on a shelf behind me. I've got battery backups galore. I've got a generator in the garage and all that, but it might mean I get to hook some stuff up pretty quick here later on. If nothing else, I guess I can just stream live video of a derecho hitting me from the front door, or go hide in the hall, depending on how bad it gets. So again, our first severe warning down south. So be down in the eastern Permian Basin, moving into the western Big Country. The time now being 7:19 p.m. A line of severe storms approaching Snyder. It's going to be a severe storm warning for Mitchell, Scurry, Borden, and Howard counties in the northeastern Permian Basin, western Big Country. These storms are moving east at 60 miles an hour. The potential for quarter-size hail and wind gusts over 60 miles an hour. Again, we're going to have winds about 2,000 feet above the surface tonight of about 100 miles an hour. So it will not take a big-time intense thunderstorm to help bring some of that stronger wind down to the surface, which is why even some of these showers tonight may produce near severe caliber winds of 60 plus miles an hour. Then as you look north, we'll take a look in northwest Texas. There's another severe warning. So again, we now have a line of severe storms that has quickly erupted just northwest of Colorado City to Snyder, to Jayden, to Paducah, to now east of Childress, just east of Hollis, Oklahoma. All these storms capable of producing winds of 60 to 80 miles an hour, the potential for quarter-size hail. Looking at the which way the wind's blowing mode, our closest tornadic storm is this dangerous storm coming up towards Mangum and Granite in Willow, Oklahoma. We have tornado warnings for Sayre and Carter, Oklahoma. We have tornado warnings from near Cheyenne, Oklahoma to north of Hammond, to Leedy, to Camargo, to Visay, to Sealing, Oklahoma. We were up in this area back in 2018, I believe it was, for the Ray wildfire that burned several 100,000 acres in a drought-stricken mid-April. And that burn scar is still very evident to this day. 78-mile-an-hour wind gusts measured southeast of Eric, Oklahoma, about 20 minutes ago. So again, these storms continue to produce very strong winds. Same thing's going to go for these storms in west central Texas, moving east at about 60 miles an hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a very large track on this just to give us a look at where these are probably going to track over the next 1 hour. And again, I'm going to put it out a little bit ahead. I'm going to do it like this, and I'm going to give just a little bit of buffer room. So this is the next hour. And again, as these continue to race east, the eastern edge of this little polygon line here, this is where they're going to be in an hour. So perhaps just west of Abilene, Dyess Air Force Base, Seymour, Oklahoma, southeast of Vernon, coming up on Harold and Electra. 1 hour from now, line of storms with damaging winds, some hail. Can't rule out a tornado heading your way. Again, these storms are producing very strong winds without too much effort. In terms of the wind, we're just getting reports left and right of 75 plus mile an hour winds with all this activity tonight. And now the threat for severe weather will decrease south of the Red River in a few hours. We're not expecting a line with 100 mile an hour winds to make it to the Metroplex tonight. But these storms right now in western Oklahoma are capable of producing tornadoes, and they are ramping up in the tornado department. We've got multiple indications of significant tornadoes underway with multiple of these storms in western Oklahoma, south of the Red River in northwest Texas into the west central Texas area. Storms have fired up. We've got winds 60, 70, maybe 80 miles an hour. The potential for quarter-size hail, maybe a little bit bigger. Nothing indicating tornado mischief right now. But again, it doesn't matter if we have 80-mile-an-hour tornado or 80-mile-an-hour straight-line wind. They're both going to be problematic. Looks like northeast of Cheyenne, Oklahoma, northeast of Strong City, we've got a major tornado down with a tornado debris signature. This is going to be moving north of Hammond towards Leedy. So again, that's a significant tornado in progress with a tornado debris signature over 10,000 feet. We'll take a look from the Vance Air Force Base radar. Don't see it as easily from there. Sounds like these storms northeast of Gold now, near Manga, may also have a tornado down. You can see lightning from Ben McCone, Stephen Jones. We've also got meteorologist Jason Cooley heading up into northwest Texas. We'll clean the radar off real quick. Let's turn it back on. And again, a line of severe storms now from near Gold, Oklahoma, coming towards Quanah, Texas, Paducah, Texas. I don't know why that never shows up. To Guthrie, Texas, Jayden, Texas, west of Aspermont, west of Rotan. Switch radar sources down into the big country to near Snyder. And then that's where the line ends, near Interstate 20. Line of severe storms capable of producing quarter-size hail. Potential for winds of 60 to 70 miles an hour. Can't rule out a tornado, though we've had none confirmed recently. Let's take a look at the latest high-resolution rapid refresh model just to get a sense of timing and potential impacts tonight. And actually, real quick, let's look at wind gusts. Give me just a second. I'm going to turn the radar off. And here are wind gusts. I'm sorry for the numbers. I'll read them off to you, the bigger ones. 51 miles an hour in Amarillo, 67 in Hereford, 63 in Plainview, 66 in Lubbock. Still in the mid to upper 50s in portions of the Permian Basin. And again, the winds are going to keep howling tonight. Even across the eastern two-thirds of Texas, we're going to have winds increase tonight as a very dynamic storm system continues to throw a tantrum. Back to the radar, and I did say we were going to take a look at the high-res rapid refresh model, so let's just do that really quick. This will be the high-res rapid refresh model. I want to look, hold on, let me switch it to the time it needs to be. Here's, that's not 7. Model? I've broken the computer, great. Hold on. Technology. All right, so this is what the high-res rapid refresh model had at 7. Not too bad. Here's 8 o'clock. It's doing decent. Clearly showed the development of the line further south to I-20. It's doing okay with placement of storms, so we'll keep looking. Here is 9 o'clock. Scattered storms, some of which could be severe, especially from I-20 north near Abilene to just west of Wichita Falls to Electra. A couple of showers, sub-severe storms in the Concho Valley. I mean, it's still going to be windy. Those storms weaken by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Moving into western North Texas. Severe threats really going downhill by now in North Texas. Still gusty winds. Here's midnight. You can see a line of showers and storms. Severe weather threat overall is low. Maybe some very small hail, strong winds from near Brady to Hamilton to Granbury to DFW Airport to just east of Sherman. Bells. Here's 2 a.m. Line of showers, maybe some storms, moving southeast, gusty winds. Severe threat at this point, very, very low. Here's 3 a.m., just showers. So again, that is the expectation. So our highest severe weather threat should peak over the next 2 to 3 hours in northwest Texas, the Big Country, and western North Texas. Back to the weather radar. We just had a wind gust of about 66 miles an hour in Amarillo. Again, and again, so it's still windy. There's still a lot of dust west of the dry line across the Texas Panhandle now, West Texas, the Permian Basin, and that'll be moving into northwest Texas. Over the next couple of hours. So again, these storms are going to continue moving southeast. I'm going to try to switch this over to level 3 data so I can load a loop. My level 3 data hasn't been behaving itself particularly well tonight. There we go. So I'm just going to load a 1-hour loop. Or however long it wants. Okay. So here's the last hour. You can see storms really start firing south pretty quickly, and they're also moving east pretty quickly. .71-mile-an-hour wind gust in Childress at 6:59. In a second, you're going to hear my weather radio going off. I just had a tornado watch issued for my location, so the weather radio is going to go off. And probably, I'm still going to be scared half to death. So again, this is what the line's done over the last hour. Pretty quick development down to I-20. And storms are generally moving east at 50 to 60 miles an hour. The strongest storms could produce winds 70 to 80 miles an hour. The potential for a tornado, though not high. And the potential for some pocket change size hail. You can see Steven driving on, I think that's Interstate 40 in western Oklahoma, driving east. And then Jason Cooley, I believe, is driving up 287 towards the falls, and then we'll intercept those storms as they move southeast. And at some point here in a minute, my weather radio is going to squeal like a pig. In fact, I could probably turn off the noise canceling stuff. And you'll hear that I've actually got a little AC unit running in the background, but I have noise filtering enabled typically, so you don't have to hear it. And there you go. I just have to remember to turn that off when the weather radio starts ringing so you can enjoy it with me, because it'll actually mute out the weather radio, which is impressive since that thing blares. So again, line of storms capable of producing quarter-size hail, the potential for damaging wind gusts of 60, 70, locally 80 miles an hour, the potential for a tornado is there, but not overly high. The threat's definitely higher north of the Red River, where we do have multiple tornadoes in progress across western Oklahoma. And that line of storms is moving towards Oklahoma City, and it'll make it into the Oklahoma City metro probably in about 90 minutes or so. With a threat of 70 to 90 mile an hour winds, maybe spin up tornadoes. I'm just waiting for the weather radio to go nuts. You know, that anticipation where you expect something, you know it's going to scare you anyway, but you're just waiting for it. That's me right now. This weather radio on the wall scares me half to death all the time. Yeah, even I have a weather radio. Everyone should have a weather radio, especially if wake you up in the middle of the night. But again, line of severe storms will continue moving east over the next several hours in the big country. The northwest sections of Texas, west central Texas, maybe the northern Concho Valley. These storms themselves moving east at about 50 to 60 miles an hour. And again, we're not expecting this to be severe when it gets into DFW later tonight around midnight, 1 a.m. Yeah, there could still be strong winds, but I'm not expecting tornado issues, that stuff. The threat of severe weather will decrease quickly once storms are east of 281. Again, with winds up to 80, 90, 100 miles an hour, just 1,000 feet above the surface or so, it's not taking that much time or that much energy to get some of these winds down to the surface. The Big Fins fire west near Adrian in the Texas Panhandle, just under our logo there, west of Vega, now 5,000 acres and 5% containment. Fires remains driven by 60 to 70 mile an hour winds and is essentially not allowing containment efforts to succeed. So that fire that fired up about 2 hours ago, maybe 3, has burned over 5,000 acres and is flying. And that is west of Amarillo, west of Highway 385, west of Vega, near Adrian. So probably within 25 miles of New Mexico on Interstate 40. I haven't heard if they've had any closures of I-40 due to the fire. I know they had a closure on I-40 around/west of Adrian because of dust causing accidents, but what we're going to do for now is we're going to head on over to Jason Cooley's live stream, and we're going to let him take the lead for a little while as he drives up Highway 287.
This is a really nasty just of Hobart, Oklahoma, potential that a very likely tornado just on the west side of Hobart. and it is just west-west of Hobart. Okay, west-northwest of Hobart. Very likely tornadic circulation, guys. In Oklahoma, you need underground or a tornado shelter. Your tornado safe place. Showing on radar scope, Radar Omega does have it. So very intense situation for Hobart, Oklahoma. And then folks on the leading edge of the precipitation core. That includes Roosevelt, Oklahoma, down to eventually Mountain Park, Oklahoma. Just a bad situation as far as wind and hail goes, but just northwest of Hobart now, very likely a tornado. If we look at our correlation coefficient, we'll see if we have any debris drop out, and yes we do. Very likely a tornado on the ground, picking up debris west of Hobart, north of Hobart now. So Hobart, Oklahoma, you need to be sheltered immediately, right? Very dangerous storm, huge hail and destructive winds, and a spin-up tornado, substantial spin-up tornado at that. So very safe to say we've got a tornado doing damage just west of Hobart, Oklahoma. Time is 4 standard time. I'm going to back to velocity. That'll have a more rapid update. Back to velocity. Our velocity couplet still very strong. West of Hobart, Oklahoma, and places north and northeast of Hobart need to be in shelter immediately. This is a very dangerous storm with huge hail, destructive winds, and potentially a destructive tornado. We have literally all 3 severe hazards right now with this one storm. It means business. It's a bad situation, guys. Baltic Chief Dave Reimer's taking a quick dinner break. He should be back any moment, in which he'll take back over. But right now, the situation at hand, I don't want that. I want reflectivity. All right, so very likely a tornado is passing just barely on the north side of Hobart right now. We see huge hail cores to the east of Hobart and to the south of Hobart. In the middle, we have we'll call it a donut hole. It's not exactly reminiscent of a donut hole at the moment, but we have a reflectivity dropout where that tornado is spinning up, probably just east of Hobart. It's hard to tell based on velocity. This is a QLCS tornado. QLCS tornadoes are a little harder than supercell tornadoes, but very damaging hail now northeast of Hobart and south of Hobart. Roosevelt, you need to be indoors, away from windows. You're going to get destructive winds and destructive hail very, very momentarily. But back to Hobart, we'll go to velocity. It looks like our tornado might be occluding, but we might have another tornadic circulation trying to spin up just to the southeast of Hobart. So we're looking at this being the main parent tornado that looks to be occluding and perhaps dying out. We're also watching this. So folks north of Hobart right now need to be underground or in your tornado shelter. That's 2 tornadic circulations close together. The actual tornado might be weakening, but there's still indication that the tornado could be dancing near ground level. And now just southeast of Hobart, we're seeing some inflow picking up pretty rapidly there. Could potentially be handing off a new QLCS tornado southeast of Hobart. So folks north of Hobart and east of Hobart over to Gotebo, guys, get underground, get in your tornado shelter. This is a very dangerous storm. Tornado warned storm. could potentially cause a lot of damage, especially if the tornadic circulation consolidates again. It consolidated pretty intensely just one scan ago, but our latest scan we have weakened just a bit on that, so hopefully good news, folks north of Hobart, but that circulation still is there. So you guys are going to stay, you're going to want to stay underground. Just a frightening situation for the town of Hobart. Folks to the north and to the east, got to be on your lookout here. New circulation potentially just southeast of Hobart. You're not going to be able to see it because it's wrapped in rain and hail and destructive winds. Folks that aren't familiar with Hobart, Oklahoma, your main thoroughfares through there going east, looks like a county road. Gonna be hard for me to even see that, but it appears to be County Road E1570. I'm can't quote me on that. It doesn't look to be a U.S. highway going east out of Hobart, but going north is Route US 183. Guys, stay off 183 north of Hobart. Folks that live near there need to be in shelter right now. Alright, David Reimer should be coming back shortly, but just want to give you the latest update. Let's take a quick look, expanded look on what's going on at this very moment. Line of thunderstorms expands southwestward from that point near Hobart all the way south to Colorado City, Texas. The main area of concern is definitely that Hobart, Roosevelt, Oklahoma area with destructive hail and wind and a spin-up tornado that did look to produce damage based on correlation coefficient. Now the situation is unfolding. Let me double check. All right, still have data. Okay. Now we're going to zoom back in. Our main storm of concern is in western Oklahoma, not in Texas right now, guys. We are covering a potentially historic severe weather event as it goes in Oklahoma. Gotebo, Oklahoma needs to be indoors in your tornado shelter right now. Large hail falling and a potential QOCS tornado developing as well. Western Hobart, Oklahoma likely had a touchdown just 5-10 minutes ago. If we look back at which way the wind is blowing, we're going to look at velocity data here, and our initial tornado does look to have dissipated. Our secondary area of circulation going to be right here west of Gotebo and Mountain View, Oklahoma. So guys, still get indoors, especially Gotebo and areas vicinity just north and east of Gotebo, Mountain View, Oklahoma. Indoors in your tornado shelter right now. Get away from windows. Get at your lowest, most interior part of your house. That's our new area of concern coming in Gotebo and just north of Gotebo, Oklahoma. Baldine Chief David Reimer will be back shortly. This is Jason Cooley covering for the moment so David could hydrate and get a little food in before he continues to do coverage for the next few hours. Yeah, Gotebo, Oklahoma and Mountain View, Oklahoma need to be in tornado shelter. Still watching that area of spin. With minutes ago out of Hobart, Oklahoma. That does appear to paying big attention as does be we have strong ends to produce this as it is. Isn't even national. Could be just straight line winds capable of doing damage. Any of these tornadoes will be accelerate damage potentially. So let's shift gears to our hail potential. It's pretty much off this night here in South Oklahoma. Okay, scary look, not just Petra and Rose. Oklahoma away from windows now. Be indoors, away from windows. Hopefully your windows hold up. Wind-driven hail, the size of golf balls possible into Cooperton, Oklahoma, any moment. Serious situation with the hail and the wind too. Could be pretty destructive. So, want to stress, even if you're not in a tornado warning tonight, you're going to want to take these severe thunderstorm warnings very seriously. 80-mile-per-hour wind gust and quarter-sized hail can do quite a bit of damage to cars, windows, siding, and well-being. People and pets, those pets, doors, and the well in advance because these storms are moving at 75 miles per hour. If you think you have time, you probably don't. You don't have nearly as enough time as you think you do with these storm motions upwards of 75 miles per hour. So again, folks in advance of these storms, lock down anything that'll blow away, lock down the trash can, lock down the patio umbrella. You already know. And make sure you get to your safe spot and get away from windows and just wait it out. It's going to be windy tonight. These storms are going to bring a lot of wind, and there's going to be a lot of wind behind the storms for parts of far west Oklahoma and the Texas Panhandle. Y'all already know. Y'all are experiencing that firsthand. So again, destructive hail just east of Gotiba, Oklahoma. Coming into Cooperton, Oklahoma now. Cooperton, get indoors. Areas north and south of Cooperton are about to get blasted by potentially large hail and destructive winds. Let's take a look at our velocity, which way the wind is moving. Currently not as concerned about tornadic circulation. About 15 minutes ago, we likely had a tornadic spin up west of Hobart. Going to go ahead and take a look farther southwest along the line. We don't have any tornado warnings beside Gotiba, Mountain View, Oklahoma, Cooperton, Oklahoma. Y'all are still in a tornado warning for another 24 minutes. So again, area southwest Oklahoma, Gotiba, Mountain View, Cooperton, Oklahoma, over to Carnegie, Oklahoma. Be indoors, be away from windows, tornado safe spot. Strong winds in advance of these storms, gusting upwards of 50 to 55 miles per hour across Frederick, Hollister, Oklahoma, Davidson, Oklahoma, Granfield, Oklahoma, Chattanooga, Oklahoma. Once a storm hits, you're going to have a wind shift and potentially even stronger winds going the opposite direction. So westerlies in advance of westerlies coming in from these thunderstorms, southerlies in advance of these thunderstorms. I'm going to let this guy pass. I'm doing about 75. So I'm going to let this guy pass. There we go. All right. I'm in southwest Oklahoma. I'm about to intercept storms in the next couple hours near Waurika. Still have some time on my hands. I'm doing live coverage for David. He'll be back in just a minute or so. We've been paying close attention to radar. been paying very close attention to Cooperton, Oklahoma, over to Mountain View. Call it Carnegie now, because Carnegie, you're about to be in it. As far as some large hail and damaging wind go, tornadic circulations don't look to be of concern at this very moment, guys. But we are still watching. It's a QLCS line of storms, twisting line of storms that completely capable of producing damaging tornadoes, like about 15 minutes ago in Hobart. If we have any reports from western and northwestern Hobart, Oklahoma, drop those reports in the comment section. And I'm Jason Cooley with Texas Storm Chasers. We appreciate you watching this special edition coverage for the state of Oklahoma, as we have potentially historic derecho. Historic in the sense that these are winds that even in the spring and summer months we don't experience. And it's late February, folks. So very odd timing of the year. Very, very intense line of storms. Damaging hail. Cooperton, you are getting slammed by some hail and damaging winds, no doubt. I hope you guys are in a safe spot. It's not tornadic, but it's large hail and damaging winds. Could do quite a bit of damage, guys. Take a quick look at something called vertically integrated liquid. Might be a little bit of lag. There's about a 10-minute lag here. But if we look at the density of these thunderstorms, this points out highly dense cores with likely damaging hail. This would be over Cooperton now. There's a bit of a lag on this data. And then Carnegie, you're about to be in it here in about 5 minutes max. So Carnegie, Oklahoma, get in a safe spot. Dangerous winds and hail coming your way. And at this very moment, 8:10 p.m. Central Standard. Not looking at any substantial tornado threat at this very second. It's damaging winds and hail that are taking precedence. I'm going to switch over to my webcam view. And David Reimer is going to be able to take over coverage here any moment. Appreciate you guys watching. Keep staying with us, Texas Storm Chasers, on Facebook and YouTube. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. David Reimer will be taking over very momentarily once I...
All right, good evening. Thank you to meteorologist Jason Cooley for allowing me to take a wee bit of a break, drink some liquid, have a healthy snack, and we're back at it. As Jason said, we are monitoring a severe weather event this evening across portions of Texas and Oklahoma. Over the last hour, we have had no tornado warnings in the state of Texas. We have had a couple of tornadoes in southwestern Oklahoma, and the line of severe storms has expanded to the south here in the state of Texas. And we note that the highest threat for severe weather this evening will be north of the Red River. This line of storms moving into northwest Texas, the big country right now, does have some 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts. Some pocket change size hail, that means dimes, pennies, nickels, maybe quarters. And then north of the Red River, Altus Lawn North to Oklahoma City, with that nasty looking complex of doom, that's where we could have winds of 80, 90 miles an hour, in addition to the potential for tornadoes. As we zoom on in, we'll take a look. You can see the line of storms making pretty good progress to the southeast, moving east at about 50 to 60 miles per hour. And these storms, again, are now from just west of Vernon and Knox City to Sweetwater, moving east at about 60 miles an hour. The potential for winds of 60, maybe 70 miles an hour in spots. The potential for some pocket change size hail. There are no tornado warnings, and while the threat of a tornado is not zero, it is very low south of the Red River for the remainder of this evening. Over the next several hours, as these storms continue to move east, we anticipate they will be weakening, especially once they make it east of Highway 281 and into a more stable air mass. Weather model guidance is in good agreement. This line of storms will weaken, probably below severe limits. It's still going to have some strong winds, still some lightning, brief heavy rain, but the threat for severe weather will decrease. That means the threat for the Metroplex, the DFW Metroplex, the severe weather threat is low. North into Oklahoma, we're monitoring intense severe storms at this point from near Frederick to Snyder. I'll go ahead and switch to the fancy super duper awesome blossom high res radar here for this. And again, from near Frederick to Snyder to Carnegie, or however Mr. Cooley said it, moving to the east at about 70 miles an hour. We note the Weather Service in Norman has these storms again moving east at about 70 miles an hour, which would have it in Anadarko, Oklahoma. You know what? Let's do this. I want to find... We're going to actually draw this polygon out. Stand by. Again, moving east about 70 means this is going to be entering west sides of Oklahoma City in about 45 minutes. You can see starting to get a bit of an apex to the bow here. We'll put... They've got 70. I'm going to put 75. So again, at this point, entering the city of Lawton. Yeah, probably not that quickly, but over the next 30 to 45 minutes. Apache, Oklahoma. Next 20 minutes. Chickasha, probably closer to 8:45 to 8:50. West sides of Oklahoma City, Mustang, down to Newcastle, Tuttlebridge Creek, probably about 8:50 to 9 o'clock. Oklahoma City, Moore, Norman, about 9:10. And then areas a bit later than that. We note these severe storms actually go all the way into northern Oklahoma. Line of severe storms capable of producing 60 to 80 mile an hour wind gusts. Looking at the radar, you can see that. Alva, Oklahoma getting hit by strong winds right now. All the way down. While these storms may not necessarily look super impressive reflectivity-wise on radar, winds just above the ground, about 1,000 feet above the ground right now, are over 100 miles an hour. So these storms are easily able to transport severe caliber winds down to the surface here. And that's why 60, 70, 80, 80 plus mile an hour winds are certainly in the realm of possibility. And again, interestingly enough, my location, I am right about here. Literally, I can see that TOKC radar out my back door. So we're going to have some interesting weather here in the next hour. Would not surprise me at all if I have to go to my safe place. We'll see. Heading back over to the radar here, line of severe storms. Southwest Oklahoma moving east quickly at about 70 miles an hour. Down into Texas, line of severe storms capable of producing pocket change size hail. 50 to 60, maybe 70 mile an hour wind gust in isolated spots from near Vernon. Just east of Benjamin now to Monday, Weinart, Haskell, Hamlin, Sweetwater. We'll switch over to the country or the big country radar. And then you can see that relatively thin line of storms from near Stamford to Sweetwater. Back southwest is weak showers and storms all the way to Big Lake. Some of these storms, again, could have winds over 60 miles an hour. Some pocket change size hail, and wind gusts. I think I already said that, but again, wind gusts over 60 miles an hour as they move east at about 50, 60, 65 miles an hour. So real quick, let's take a look at the high-res rapid refresh model for tonight. That'll give us a good sense of the timing this evening on storms. Up there goes the voice. Caffeine time. We'll load the high-resolution rapid refresh model. Again, that's 2 a.m. Let's go ahead. We'll walk that back to 9. That's 8 o'clock. Here's 9 o'clock off the radar. You can see broken line of thunderstorms, some of them severe, mainly from Interstate 20 north into southern Oklahoma. This is 9 o'clock. This might be a little slow with the Oklahoma line. The line might be closer to Oklahoma City than that by 9 o'clock. But here's 10 o'clock. You can see Norman getting pounded by a severe storm. Possible severe storm there in southeast of Henrietta, approaching Bowie. But storms generally south of the Red River weakening. These don't look overly intense. Here's 11 o'clock. Generally some strong storms moving east into western North Texas. Some of these may have winds 55, maybe 60 miles an hour. The tornado threat, overall severe weather threat at this point, continuing to decrease. Here's midnight. In the DFW Metroplex, thin line of what could be some strong winds, 50, 55 miles an hour. Quick round of heavy rain, maybe some cloud-to-ground lightning. Lasts all of 10 minutes. Here's 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., there's 4 a.m. Now, let's do something else. I'm going to look at the wind gusts this evening. Just give me just a second. I'm going to have to press some buttons. This is going to look wonky for a second. I'm going to clean it up. We're going to zoom back out. So here is a look. Let's go to 10 p.m. This is a look at the... There we go. Anytime now. This is a look at the forecast wind gusts and the wind direction. Wind direction is going to be your arrows, and then the wind gusts in the background. Notice we're still seeing wind gusts over 60 miles an hour behind the dry line, the Texas Panhandle, portions of west central Texas, into the Permian Basin. Some particularly intense looking wind gusts along the dry line southwest of Childress there. Ahead of the storms that are in western North Texas, we're seeing gradient winds over 50 miles an hour out of the south-southeast. We'll fast forward once I find my mouse. Here's midnight. You can see it's still windy in the Panhandle, West Texas, though we're starting to generally go down to 45, 55 miles an hour. Still seeing winds out of the south-southeast across North Texas, down south into southeast Texas, etc. Winds gusting over 40. At this point, the leading edge of that wind shift in a particularly strong line of winds from just west of Lawton near Medicine Park, southwest to near Vernon there. We'll go to 2 a.m. Here you go. Still windy. It's windy across the state. Starting to shift to west-northwest winds across the western two-thirds of Texas. Some winds gusting over 40 miles an hour. Eastern third of Texas, winds still out of the south-southwest. Gusts 30, 40 miles an hour. Here's 4 a.m. Really starting to calm down now. It's still windy. I mean, we've still got 25, 35 mile an hour wind gusts, but it beats the whole 70-mile thing. And then from there, 6 a.m. where we're really calming down. So again, it's going to be windy across the state tonight. Back to the radar, line of storms in the northern big country, Northwest Texas, generally moving east at about 50 miles an hour, starting to get a little slower eastward movement now that the upper level forcing is getting a little further north. Some hail, some quarter size hail, maybe some winds of 55 to 60 miles per hour in spots. No tornado warnings. We haven't had tornado issues in a while in the state. And then Oklahoma, we've got more serious severe weather, including the possibility of tornadoes, winds of 70 to 90 miles an hour, moving towards the Oklahoma City metro. Sorry. So at this point, we're going to keep an eye on things. As this line of storms moves off to the east, at about 50 miles an hour. Sorry, I'm just looking at data here. Let's put another storm track on this for Texas. These storms continue to move east. We're generally at about 50 miles an hour now, it seems. But I'll go ahead and just do 60 for simplicity's sake. So Wichita Falls in the next 45 minutes, most likely. Heading southwest, that's going to be Throckmorton, I believe. Next 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Abilene, probably in the next 30 minutes. But the good news is these storms, while they're capable of producing pocket change size hail, generally below the size of a quarter, and winds up to 60 miles an hour in spots, these are certainly much more behaved than the storms we had in the Texas Panhandle and the storms that are ongoing right now in Oklahoma. So, with that being said, we are going to plan on terminating our continuous live coverage here in about 3 minutes at 8:30. But we've got, I believe, 3 storm chasing feeds live on our YouTube channel, Texas Storm Chasers. And those are going to be up for a while. Those chasers are actually, I believe, in Oklahoma. And we're going to be documenting this line of intense thunderstorms as it moves into southern and central Oklahoma and Oklahoma City. So here's a look at the radar over the last hour. Again, Abilene could be under the gun for some strong winds here in the next 30 to 45 minutes. Same thing goes for Wichita Falls. Storms are going to weaken as they move into western North Texas over the next 2 hours. Severe storms not likely in the DFW Metroplex, but we may still have winds 50 to 55 miles an hour with a thin line of thunderstorms that moves through around midnight. And then the threat of severe weather will continue to decrease south of the Red River while ongoing north of the Red River. So with that being said, head on over, watch our live storm chasing feeds on the Texas Storm Chasers YouTube channel and on the Texas Storm Chasers website and mobile app. I have live commentary running, and we'll be here if needed. Otherwise, I'm Texas Storm Chasers David Reimer. Thanks for joining us. We'll be here keeping an eye on things. You can do the same with the free interactive weather radar and the Texas Storm Chasers mobile app. Have a good evening. God bless. I'm sure you haven't seen the last of me yet.